Welcome back, it's me, Lou. For today's video, we are going to feature a custom action figure that I made. Alright, so what we're looking at right here is my custom McFarlane DC Multiverse Catwoman. With the recent announcement of Catwoman action figure coming from McFarlane Toys from the video game Arkham City, that really got me wanting a Catwoman figure of my own, like ASAP. I can't really wait, a couple of months for the Arkham City one to come out. I believe we've only gotten 2 Catwoman figures from McFarlane, and I think they're both kind of like variants of each other. We got the Zoe Kravitz Catwoman from the live-action Batman movie, but that came in 2 variants. There was the masked head and then the unmasked head. For some reason, I think they might have given us an animated series Catwoman, but I might be confusing that with the DC Collectibles animated feature action figures, since McFarlane's handling the distribution of some of DC Collectible toys. So for me, I'm like, you know what, I need a Catwoman figure. Ideally, I'd love to get the Arkham City one, but like I said, I can't wait a couple of months. And I was kind of doing some research online, trying to find if I could find a good stand-in, in the meantime. But trying to find a decent, 7-inch Catwoman action figure was kind of hard for me to do. I found a couple of different action figures. I think DC Direct or DC Collectibles had their designer series some years ago. But I want to say those action figures fall within the 6 to 6.5 inch scale. And they're kind of stylized, and their detailing and articulation don't necessarily match the McFarlane figures. Mattel produced an Arkham City Catwoman figure years ago, and that's actually a great figure. I hope to do a review on that in the near future. But part of me also just kind of wanted to take on the challenge of making a Catwoman figure for myself. Like I say in a lot of my customization videos, that if they don't make the character that you want in action figure form, why not make it yourself? So that's what we're looking at right here. Here is a Catwoman action figure that I made, utilizing various McFarlane pieces from other action figures in the DC Multiverse line. And we're going to talk about that and the process and the inspiration behind this figure. So I really like the look of the Julie Newmar Catwoman. So, as a kid growing up, I used to watch the live-action Batman 66 TV show. And for me, the first introduction to Catwoman was Julie Newmar. And if you go to your local Targets and maybe even your Walmarts, you'll see the Batman 66 action figures. They're a smaller scale set of figures than the DC Multiverse. I believe they're maybe between 5 and 6 inches. The Julie Newmar Catwoman's really cool. She's kind of in this black cat suit, and she has the pointy cat ears, and I think she might have a gold belt and a gold necklace. So that was one of my inspirations behind this. And of course, the Arkham City Catwoman was another inspiration. I think that's a very sexy look of the character. And that costume kind of takes some bits and pieces from the Jim Lee Hush Catwoman. That's kind of, I think, one of the more recognizable costumes over the last, 15 years. So those were kind of my inspirations, and, I had to do my research. I knew I wanted to make a McFarlane figure, so I just kind of had to figure out which action figures had the right pieces. For me, I want to create a custom that doesn't look, too handcrafted. I wanted to stay away from, doing a lot of painting myself, because I like my action figures to feel stock. I want to be able to move them and not worry about, getting joint rub or chipping paint, as I try to articulate the figures. So I wanted to find, action figures that were predominantly with a black costume, were of course female, and pieces that looked like they'd be compatible with one another. So 2 action figures came to mind. The first one was the female version of Batman Beyond. I believe that figure is Batwoman Unmasked. And then that's where I got the head from. It's the Elena Grayson head from that figure, because I think it's a great fit for Selena Kyle. And then that figure also had a great pair of legs, which is funny to say. So the legs here are actually taken from the female Batman Beyond figure. The Zoe Kravitz Catwoman, which was the other figure that pulled pieces, I pulled pieces from to create this. The live action Batwoman, or the live action Catwoman figure based off of Zoe Kravitz. She's a much smaller action figure, if you've noticed, compared to the other females in the toy line. She's a lot more petite, and for me, I wanted my Catwoman to feel a little bit more on the comic book end, with much more heroic proportions and looking a little bit more statuesque. And luckily for me, the female Batman Beyond figure had these wonderful legs. You know, they had wider hips, and then the proportions of the legs were a lot longer. So it kind of added some height to Catwoman here. I left the arms. The arms are still the Zoe Kravitz arms. And let's take a look at her up close. So the head right here, it's a beautiful head. I love this head. This is the Elena Grayson head from the female Batman Beyond figure, but this is the unmasked variant. So I love that head. I think it's great. I made some cat ears from leftover shavings from another McFarlane figure that I customized. The Zoe Kravitz bodysuit, the top half is great, but I kind of want this to look a little bit more sexy, and the Zoe Kravitz costume, it's pretty much a full bodysuit. You know, it doesn't expose any cleavage whatsoever, and not that not that I'm like a pervert like that or anything like that, but the Jim Lee Catwoman and the Arkham City Catwoman, you know, if you look at her costume, she kind of always unzips the collar down to, like, you know, slightly above her chest or even midway through, exposing some cleavage. And I was like, you know what, I kind of want to recreate that look. Unfortunately for me, though, is that the Zoe Kravitz body, so the upper torso, her chest, it's actually, this piece here is actually like a rubber sleeve. And it goes over like this black and flesh-colored piece of plastic. So her chest is actually two pieces, the action figures. There's the plastic sleeve, which makes up the top, and then there's the actual body of it. So my problem was that if I cut the sleeve open, revealing her neck and chest, the issue was that underneath her neck, there's a large square socket in the neck, because the sleeve piece at the collar has a peg behind it, and that's what keeps the top in place without it, so it doesn't shuffle around as you move the arms. So to alleviate that problem, I thought, you know what, I kind of do want to show her chest off a little. So I took an X-Acto knife and cut out a diamond shape, because, you know, Catwoman's a cat burglar. You know, they always steal diamonds when they go on like jewel heists. So I'm like, I'm going to cut out a diamond shape, and then the black plastic underneath, I'm going to paint it with a flesh tone to match her face, so it looks like her chest is slightly exposed. So it's a slightly sexier look, and it's kind of like a callback to, you know, the modern Catwoman like we see in Arkham City or like in Jim Lee's Hush. And the whole time I'm cutting this out, I keep on thinking, now there's a term that's used for Superman's cousin, Power Girl. Like if you're familiar with Power Girl, you know, she has short blonde hair. She flies around in a white top, and she's known for two things. You know, you can pretty much guess what those two things are, and she showcases them perfectly, because in her outfit she has a cutout on her top, just like this figure, but fans have affectionately called that her boob window. So, you know, I kind of felt the need to create a boob window for Catwoman here. But I didn't want to make it seem too gratuitous, so I kind of kept it, you know, not too big, you know, just right. You know, I kind of want to make her look a little bit classy. The belt here might look familiar. It's actually a Marvel Legends Black Widow belt. I believe this is taken from the comic book version, not the MCU one. And then I just took gold paint and colored over the Widow logo. This belt here is kind of a callback to the Julie Newmar Catwoman from Batman 66. You know, that costume, she kind of has a gold belt, and her gold necklace actually kind of resembles this design. So for me, this is kind of like a shout out to the old Batman 66. I wanted my Catwoman to have sharp razor claws, as we see here. And I found the perfect hands. They were the right proportions. They had sharp fingernails, and that's the Killmonger Black Panther hands, and that's from the Marvel Legends. It's from their MCU line. So I grabbed those, and they were a near fit. I just kind of had to trim the peg very slightly just to get them to fit perfectly. And then here are those Batwoman legs that I was talking about. I love the fact that it brings her hips out wider. And the reason why I like that look is because this Zoe Kravitz body, the upper torso, the shoulders are really wide with the way the costume's designed. And the Zoe Kravitz figure originally had these much narrower hips and legs. So it didn't have all the curves I wanted. I wanted my Catwoman to be a little bit more curvy, especially at the hips, just so it could bring it in line with the width of her shoulders. And those Batwoman legs were like perfect for it. Not only that, but I do like the stylized look of the legs with the panel lining like here. And it's a nice texture too. And the boot design is really awesome also. It's kind of reminiscent of like Wolverine's boot designs with the 2 points. And then they kind of converge below the knee to like a stripe that runs down. That's very much like how Wolverine's boots are. And I thought it'd be kind of a cool look for Catwoman, especially since it kind of carries over that diamond motif like I cut out in her chest. And I love the ankles too, how the boots kind of flare out at the ankles, and then there's kind of like almost like, these are almost like kick pads, and then there's like shoes underneath. Thankfully, these are flat-footed soles, and they're not high heels. I think that works very well. And I was still able to retain Catwoman's tail. And unlike the Zoe Kravitz figure, I can actually store this on the body of the character. Just tuck it in underneath the belt. So this is my Catwoman figure. And let's take a look at her up close, just so we can admire the details. Again, I love this Elena Grayson head from the Batwoman Unmasked figure. I think it's gorgeous. It looks great. I was contemplating possibly painting her lips like a little bit like with a brighter red. But I'm not sure. I'm still undecided about that. I love the hair. Now, generally, modern Catwoman has kind of much more of a shorter pixie haircut, but I kind of like the full hair body look. And what I like about this hairstyle a lot also is that it kind of frames her face. And it kind of reminds me of actress Cameron Bykondova. And she was the actress that played Catwoman from the Fox Gotham series years ago. Even though it doesn't look like the actress, there's something about the way the hair that frames this figure's face that reminds me so much of Cameron's face. Especially the lips too, the lips also. And then we're coming up to her chest. Like I said, this top is actually just a sleeve. So I took an X-Acto knife and cut a hole out. And then just painted the underneath a flesh tone. So, that's her chest. And then we're back to the Marvel Legends belt. The figure still retains all its articulation. There was no compromises there. Even with the new legs, they're just as mobile, if not more so. So it all works out well in the end. And I really wanted a Catwoman figure. And I am excited about the Arkham City one. But there is just something very cool about just making your own figure and designing it yourself. Especially, like in this case, I was very lucky that I was able to get away with creating something that looks very stock. Like, I don't like customs that look like, there's a lot of handcrafted stuff involved, like, fabric or like clay or epoxy. For me, I want it to look like a stock toy. I want this to actually look like something that you'd see McFarlane actually design. And since this utilizes like 95% McFarlane pieces, I think, at least in my opinion, I think I'm a little bit successful there. So yeah, this is my custom Catwoman. I just wanted to share it with you and discuss the process a little. And this is a very easy to do figure. I would say this is almost, between beginner and intermediate level. I think the hardest thing if you were to take on this yourself would be cutting out the sleeve here to make the chest hole. You have to be very experienced with an X-Acto knife to make sure you get a good cut. Because if you mess up, and you kind of lose this sleeve piece right there. The ears are attached with super glue, and like I always recommend, I use Gorilla Glue, the gel version of their super glue. I think that works great. But overall, this is, like I said, this was a very easy figure to put together. To actually put it together only took maybe like 15 to 20 minutes. The thing that took the longest amount of time was just painting the neck and chest to match the face. And I applied multiple coats of paint. You know, a lot of that time was just spent drying. You know, I'd use a hair dryer to accelerate the process. But other than that, very simple, very easy to do. You know, for most of these McFarlane figures, all you really need to do to like take them apart is submerge them in hot water. Be careful if you're using boiling water, because you don't want to actually burn or scald yourself. But for the most part, you know, very hot water. You know, I'll take like a bowl, fill it up, throw it in the microwave for maybe like 6 minutes, and you know, as soon as it starts boiling, I'll take it out. You know, submerge the figure. All the pieces kind of get really soft, and you can easily just start unplugging the figure. You know, unlike a Marvel Legends figure, the arms easily pop out. You can separate the figure at the torso, at the waist. You know, the heads easily pop out. The legs could pop out from their joints. You know, so being able to swap pieces is very doable with a McFarlane figure. You know, than versus like a Marvel Legends. Marvel Legends, you have to like crack open the torso, which is a pain in the butt. But that's the one thing I like about these McFarlane figures. You know, they're so easy to customize. So yeah, you know, if this is something you want to take a crack at, go for it. You know, I think it's a great Catwoman, and you know, you'll have some leftover pieces. Like I still have, you know, after this was all done, I still have a female Batman Beyond figure that's missing a head, and I kind of have ideas of what I might do with that in the future. But for now, you know, I'll give it some more thought. So yeah, here's my Catwoman. You know. Alright, so let's wrap this up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a returning viewer subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. Alright, later.